Hello guys, today in this video, we are going to do practice session on the hybrid cloud. Topic is OpenStack hybrid cloud. So what exactly OpenStack is? And how are the main contributors behind this project? Why this is free? And most important what are the components of OpenStack? So, OpenStack is a stack of open source software that enterprises service providers can use to set up and run their cloud compute and storage infrastructure. Rackspace and NASA are the key initial contributors to the stack. The early code comes from NASA's Nebula platform, and the cloud files are from Rackspace's Cloud Files platform. More than 150 companies have joined the project, among which are AMD, Intel, Canonical, SUSE Linux, Red Hat, Cisco, Dell, HP, IBM, NEC, VMware and Yahoo. It is portable software, but is mostly developed and used on the Linux operating system. The technology consists of a series of interrelated projects that control processing of components like storage and networking resources throughout a data center. Everything is managed through a dashboard that gives administrators control while empowering their users to provision resources through a web interface. Why it is free? All of the code for OpenStack is freely available under the Apache 2.0 license. Anyone can run it, build on it, or submit changes back to the project. OpenStack makes its services available through Amazon Elastic Cloud Computing and simple storage service compatible APIs, and hence the client tools written for Amazon Web Service can be used with OpenStack as well. There are three main service families under OpenStack are: first, compute infrastructure and the code name is Nova. Second is storage infrastructure and the code name is Swift. And last one is imaging service code is name is Glance. Now let's understand the functionality of each major components, and their functionality. First is OpenStack Compute Infrastructure, OpenStack Compute or Nova. It is a cloud computing fabric controller, the main part of an infrastructure as a layer system. It is written in Python and utilizes many external libraries such as Eventlet for concurrent programming, Compute for advanced message queue protocol, and SQL Alchemy is used for database access. Nova is the underlying cloud computing fabric controller for the OpenStack cloud. Functionality of Nova are: it provides activities needed to support the life cycle of instances within the OpenStack cloud are handled by Nova. It also manages all the compute resources, networking, authorization, and scalability needs of the OpenStack cloud. Functions and features are: instance lifecycle management, management of compute resources, networking and authorization, REST-based API. In the Eucalyptus video I mentioned what is REST and SOAP. Asynchronous eventually consistent communication. It supports different types of hypervisor like Xen, Xen Server, KVM and Hyper-V. Now the Nova has further some important subcomponents, and these are as follows. API Server, also known as Nova API. Message queue code name is RabbitMQ Server. Compute Workers, also known as Nova Compute. Next is Network Controller, also known as Nova Network, and the code name is Quantum. Now, Volume Worker or Nova Volume. Last one is Scheduler or Nova Scheduler. Now let me explain the subcomponents of the Nova. First is API Server, which provides an interface to the outside world to interact with the cloud infrastructure. API Server is the only component that outside world uses to manage the infrastructure. The management is done through web services calls using Elastic Cloud Computing Application Peripheral Interface. Second component is Message Queue. Cloud Controller communicates with other Nova components such as Scheduler, Network Controller, and Volume Controller via the Advanced Message Queue protocol which I mentioned previously. Next is Nova Compute. This component deals with instance management lifecycle. They receive the requests for lifecycle management via the message queue and carry out operations. There are several compute workers in a typical production cloud deployment. An instance is deployed on any of the available compute worker based on the scheduling algorithm used. Next subcomponent is Network Controller or Nova Network. Code name is Quantum. The Network Controller deals with the network configuration of host machines. It does operations like allocating IP addresses, configuring VLAN or virtual LAN for projects, implementing security groups and configuring networks for compute nodes. Now the last subcomponent of Nova is Scheduler or also known as Nova Scheduler. Currently the Nova Schedule implements a few basic scheduling algorithms. First is chance. What it does is, it chooses the compute host randomly across availability zones. Second is based on availability zone, similar to chance, but the compute host is chosen randomly from within a specified availability zone. Last one is named as simple. In this method, hosts whose load is least are chosen to run the instance. Second main component of the Openstack hybrid cloud is storage infrastructure, also known as, or the code name is, Swift. It has built-in redundancy and failover management and features like backing up or archiving data, serving graphics or videos. Swift also provides elasticity and flexibility of cloud-based storage for web applications. Functions and features of the storage infrastructure or Swift is storing the machine images, working as an independent data container. It also provides redundancy and failover in the storage. It provides backup and archival of the existing data. This is extremely scalable. Means you can scale up and scale down the storage anytime. Third and the last component of the Openstack hybrid cloud is Openstack Imaging to Service or GLANCE. It is a lookup and retrieval system for virtual machine images. It can be configured to use any one of the following three storage backends. How these components are interconnected I will show you just after a few slides. Okay, let's back to the topic. Openstack Object Store to store images to Simple Storage Service storage directly. S3 or Simple Storage Service storage with Object Store as the intermediate for S3 access. Functions and features are simply, it provides imaging to service. Okay, now this is how the architecture of Openstack looks like. How user or admin are connected to the prior component of the Openstack, that is via Nova API. Nova API is connected to both Glance and the centralized manager. This centralized is then connected to all other component and subcomponent of the Nova. Here you can see that, over Nova Compute, the instances are launched. The images used to launch the instances are stored in Nova Volume. And in Nova Volume, it holds the object as object store. Nova Network is DHCP server enabled, means the IP address required for instances or the virtual machine is managed and get by this component. This Nova Scheduler is the main component behind this all process. Now this is the scenario. This is what we are actually going to do. In Eucalyptus we use two virtual machine, one for front end and one for back end. Now here also, we require two virtual machine. But you can see here that in this server one machine we need two physical network adapter. Why two? One is for public interface and one is for private interface. But then the scenario is not possible for you to create. So now I am going to create one virtual machine over which we are going to launch both the front end and the back end. We are installing this front end and back end on same PC and that too virtually. Isn't it as exciting? We are running virtual machine with three virtual network adapter and creating the environment for hybrid cloud computing. One is net or network address translation, and second one is public IP address, and third one is private network adapter. Here I am using Ubuntu Linux 12.04 desktop. I am going to download and install all the software and images to launch a virtual machine. Now I am going to install the Ubuntu virtual machine, one Oracle VM VirtualBox. So now, let's move to the Oracle VirtualBox. Now we have to create two host-only adapter. For that you need to go to File menu, then click on Preferences. Now undo Windows pop-ups. This Preferences can be considered as the basic setting for the Oracle VirtualBox. As I told you earlier, that we are going to use three virtual network adapter, so one of them is net or network address translation, so we are going to create two additional network adapter, and in the tutorial of Oracle VirtualBox, I taught you how to create the network adapter. Now we are going to assign the IP address here in each network adapter. Click on Host-Only Adapter 1 and assign IP address as 10.0.0.1 and network mask as 255.0.0.0. Click on OK. Now click on Host-Only Adapter 2 and assign the IP address as 172.16.0.254 and network mask as 255.255.0.0. Click on OK and again on OK. Now you know how to create a virtual machine, so I am going it in a fast. Just look what I am doing. Click on the new virtual machine and give name an Openstack and type as Linux and version as Ubuntu 64-bit. Click Next and assign RAM 2 GB to 3 GB cause we are going to install the front end and back end on same machine. Click Next, and now I want to create a new hard disk. Click Create, and then the type as VDI format. Next, and set as dynamic type. and assign the amount as approximately 30 gigabytes. Click on Create and we had done creating the virtual machine. Now go to Setting, go to System, remove the floppy drive. Go to Processor section, increase the processor to 2 or 3. Now move to CD/DVD section and assign the CD of Ubuntu 12.04 desktop. Now the important section is network. We require 3 network adapter. First is net, and second is assigned to the host only adapter 1, and then go to adapter 3 and enable the send in attached to. Select the host only adapter, and select the host only adapter 2. Then click on OK. Then click on Start. And the Ubuntu desktop machine launch, and it will take time and load automatically. Then click on Install Ubuntu. Then click on Next. And then I want to erase the existing data. Click on Continue. Then the installation process starts. And while installation, it will going to ask series of questions, like where are you? Select the place and click on Continue. Then select the default keyboard. Now it will ask you the new username and password for the Ubuntu Desktop 12.04. I am going to give username as Openstack and password as 123456. Click on Continue. Then it will take 10 to 15 minutes to install, and meanwhile I am going to pause the video. Now after reboot, enter the username and password. Now, this is how Ubuntu Desktop looks like. Click on this Ubuntu Home button and search for Terminal. Now keep in mind that you always need to be in root privilege. To go into the root, type is command sudo su. Now we need to configure the network configuration file. Before that we need to disable the existing network manager, so the command is Now we need to edit the interface. To get into any file we use the name of file editor, and the file path is etc network and then interfaces. Now to save the file, press Escape, Ctrl+X and then press Y and then press Enter. Now we need to restart the networking file. To do that the command is /etc/initd/networking restart. After that check that you are able to get the internet connection or not. If not, check the command you type in networking file. Now we need to install the SSH or secure shell server on this desktop machine. This is the command. Now press Y to download and then install. After the installation of SSH server, we need to update and upgrade the machine, and the command to update is and it will take 15 to 30 minutes to update depend on your network configuration. After completion of update, run this command to update and upgrade. After completion of both update and upgrade, reboot the machine. Command is simple, reboot. Meanwhile, I would like to share some useful information. Now we are going to install Git. Now what is this Git? Git is a fast, open source, distributed version control system that is quickly replacing Subversion in open source and corporate programming communities. Now what is this version control system? First off, Git is a version control system, that is, a stable command line tool for keeping a history on the state of your source code projects. You tell it to track files in your project and periodically commit the state of the project when you want the save point. Then you can share that history with other developers for collaboration, merge between their work and yours, and compare or revert to previous versions of the project or individual files. As it is primarily a command line tool, most of the examples in this course will show the command line versions of the functions. We will be using a recent version of Git, that is 1.7 series, to check the version installed or your machine command is git and then version. Now to install the Git command is apt get install git. And then press Y to accept yes I wanted to download. Then change the directory to downloads. Then we have to download this Openstack installer, which is in Git format. And now after this, change the directory further to Openstack installer. And then run this command. This command is used to install the SQL database and other components lined, Keystone and Glance. Here it shows the public IP address and private IP address. It also shows the type of virtualization we are using here, that is QEMU VM. Then this will take some time. After the completion of this command, we have to run the last command. This last command is used to download the image file. Using this image file, we are going to launch the instances or the virtual machine. After running this command, the process of downloading the image file in tar format starts. So till then, let me explain you. This command will actually create a user for Openstack named as admin, and password as Openstack, and 172.16.0.1 is the IP address for the connection to Dashboard or Ubuntu Enterprise Cloud.